Hey everyone, it's Jack, and today I'm out at the Kaisen Linux website to take a look at Kaisen Linux. Kaisen Linux is a Debian-based distro specially formulated for the needs of the IT professional. So if you're an IT person, you'll especially love this. And even if you're not, I think you'll find it fascinating. And again, Kaisen Linux is based on Debian Testing. I'm especially thinking it's cool that Kaisen Linux is based on testing. I like testing. Being an Arch guy, mostly I spend my time on Arch. And being an Arch, everything's cutting edge, and testing relative to Debian, it's quite cutting edge as well. And so here at the website, other than saying that it's based on Debian testing and so forth, it's French origin, and also in the project description we got that Kaisen Linux is a distro for the IT professional based on the Debian GNU Linux distro. It's a complete operating system whose originality is to provide a set of tools dedicated to system administration and covering all the needs for diagnosing and dealing with the faults or failures of an installed system and its components. That's really cool. The most important system tools are available. It is thus possible to modify the partitioning of hard disks to save the data or the system, to repair the system, and to recover lost data. Wow, this is great. Or, even more, to reactivate the boot manager, to carry out deep formatting of a hard drive, diagnostics of network at several levels and on many protocols, creation and management of PKI, virtualization, automation, containerization, network lab with GNS3, and many others. Wow! Kaisen Linux also integrates a good number of Wi-Fi, video, sound, and Bluetooth drivers, in addition to those contained in the kernel, to provide improved hardware support and ensuring that you do not have to install anything more after installation. You can start the live distro as well as install it on your computer. ISO managers, the BIOS, UEFI, and 64 bits. Wow, there's just so much here that I can hardly contain myself. I'm here at the download page, and looking at this, I can see the different flavors they got here. We got Mate, and that's looking nice. I think that's their default, and then that's kind of their menu layout and their tools menu. That's cool. And then XFCE desktop, which is really nice. That's kind of one of my personal favorites. However, Atef Wadia had requested KDE, and in fact it was Atef that asked to look at this, so I'm going to take a look at this. Absolutely, Atef, thank you so much for the tip. So I'm just going to download this right here, click on it, and then I'll be right back. Okay, here I am, I'm back, and I'm in the menu now. And so this is the live version I'm booted into. And so this is our menu. We got all the different languages, and then down here we got our rolling install option and utilities. And in utilities, we got like a hardware detection tool and diagnostic. Then if we come back here, you got all these choices. You got graphical, and then the console type install, and then expert graphical and expert console or text mode, and even rescue mode if you want to just be in there. Of course, we're going to go with graphical install. Just keep it simple. And then, and by the way, they did say on the website too that this is also geared to be friendly for beginners. So if you're an IT guy, but you're not real into Linux, not a problem. This should be simple. So here's our installer, and I'm going to show you how simple it is. I'm going to go ahead and hit continue, and it automatically chose our location, so that's good. American English, that'll suffice. So I'll hit continue here. And then we'll just let it load these additional components in. And it looks like we're running kernel 5.15. Nice. So it's going to load all these components in, and then we should be able to just kind of continue from there. After it detects all the stuff that it needs to know. So here's our host name, and this can be anything. The default is Kaisen, and I think that's just fine. And then I'll just use the usual username, Toadwick, and hit continue. And then we'll keep that the same for the account. We'll give it a password, and then another type. And then we should be getting to the partition part where we select our disk. Okay, so we got choice of use the largest space, entire disk, and so on. So I guess I'll go with the first one there. I think that looks okay. Use the largest continuous space. And oh, probably happened because the disk space is too small. Okay, well, let's use the second choice. Okay, that likes that better, so that's good. And so we're just going to partition over the whole disk. Here it's asking all files in one, or you can have a separate home partition. Typically when I do it for myself, I just like having a separate home partition. But overall, in the big scheme of things, just having the whole disk probably works perfect. And then I'm just going to go ahead and finish and write. And you have not selected any partitions for swap. Oh. Well, that would be kind of hard to do if I'm using the whole disk, so I'm just going to say no. Because otherwise I got to manually do it. So, yeah, that didn't make a lot of sense. Okay, the following partitions are going to be formatted. Yes, I'm good with that. Okay, and there we go. Super simple. That's about as easy as the Calamares installer, I thought. Wow, nice, impressive. I'll be right back when it's done. Okay, we came to a stop screen here near the end, and it wants us to confirm that we want to install a grub bootloader, and yes, of course we do. So I'm going to say yes, and then select the device, and that's our hard drive there, so I'm just going to arrow down and select that and hit continue, and then onward and upward. And again, I'll be back when it's done. And I'm back again, and it looks like it's finishing up here, so I just thought I'd turn it back on in case it does something funny. And it didn't. And so now we're back. Everything appeared to be successful. So here we got our Kaisen splash screen. That's cool. So looking good so far. I guess we'll see how it worked. This is a stage where I always cross my fingers. All right. So we'll just put in our username and then our password. And I think that'll save your username after you type that in the first time. Theoretically. Wow, here we go. Gorgeous. Really nice looking desktop too. I mean, for something that's designed for wireheads, this looks great. These are our desktops here. He's got 4 going out there by default. And then we have our volume control and our network stuff. And then these are our extra icons. I'll just duck out of the way. So here, yeah, we got disk, battery and brightness, night color, and lock keys status. Cool. Then of course our calendar, which is always fun. I like the calendar, KDE version. And then that's our show desktop. And when I hit that, it looked like I'm kind of toggling the conky there too. Huh, fascinating. All right, then we have Kate, Dolphin, Spectacle, and Firefox available right there, and also the Kaisen terminal. Sweet. Right here in our taskbar. I'm just going to open up the Kaisen terminal here real quick. Take a look in here before we explore all this stuff. And let's just see our kernel real quick. 5.15, yes. Okay, that looks good and consistent with testing, I believe. And let's do a neofetch just to get a little more information. And so here we're running our 5.15 kernel, ZSH in our shell. That's cool. Plasma 5.23.4 with Kwin using the Breeze Dark theme. Nice. And Terminator is the terminal. All right, let's see what other goodies are available here. So here's our menu, and actually pretty short there. That's interesting. So it looks like we got our user applications here, and so they're all kind of in that, under that category. And then here's our Kaisen Linux stuff, and these are all the IT goodies for all you IT guys out there. So wow, we got Ansible, AWS. These are the DevOps and cloud apps. This would be a DevOps here, Docker, and then Kubernetes, LXC, wow, all this stuff. And of course, Ansible and AWS was under clouds, but man, there's just tons of things in here. Holy cow. And then Azure, that's the command line interface. So apparently you can access your Azure account if you're signed up with Microsoft Azure, and you could access it here through the command line. I went ahead and pressed enter, and it brought up all kinds of commands that you can use. I've never used the command line Azure before, so not familiar with it personally, but wow, there's just so much stuff in here. And we got JMaker, Packer, Podman, Puppet, Terraform, Vagrant, wow. And then all this network stuff, oh my gosh. If I went through these one by one, I'd probably be here for 3 days. Console port, Ethernet, wow. ETH tool, PAC ETH, GNS3, IP. So we got IP config, IP calc for calculating probably like a subnet mask and so forth. Traceroute 6. Then we got our Mac stuff. You can check out your ARP tables, scan, ping. Wow. That is really impressive. And these are console based. If you notice, you have a little console type icon next to these. And whenever you see that black console type icon, it's going to be accessible through the console. And these correspond to a actual console command. So like, I forgot what I just clicked on, but one of those was ifconfig. And so if you wanted to run ifconfig, you would simply type that in the console. However, you can click it in the menu instead. And that's pretty handy. Some people might say, well, why not just type it in the console? The thing is, there's a lot of commands out there that are hard to remember, you know, netstat and ifconfig and all these different things. Sometimes you don't use a lot of these commands for months at a time, and you might forget what they are. So having them handy right here in all categorized and organized the way it is in Kaisen Linux is really over the top. I think that's just fantastic. And wow, TCP stat. So these are all these different monitoring ones. And ngrep, netconfig, netbrowser. These are all these different scanners. And you notice some of the icons are a graphic instead of the console. And those are GUI apps. So those are different. And those will actually get you into a GUI rather than the console. Then we have our TCP packet sender. Wow. VPN stuff here. We got OpenVPN. And then there's AirCrack under Wi-Fi. AirCrack. That sounds like something an air plumber would have. Hey, we're looking at my AirCrack. Huh? What are you doing? Anyway. Onward and upward. So yes, we also got host stuff. Host APD. 2ping. Wow, just incredible. NDisk. Samping, Wake on LAN, more apps such as IWRFkill, and we got 2ping, AF, ATFTP, and Disk 6. Wow, just so many things. Wake on LAN. And then under System, we got stuff like AppArmor, backup utilities like Bacula, admin tool, that's a GUI. And then our database tools like MariaDB and PSQL. Then we got DHCP ping, and we got DNS utilities here. Wow. Host, MS lookup, whois, DNS enum. Then firewall utilities here, IPS persistent, IP tables persistent, IP state, and then 3 different FTP clients, and then Microsoft stuff here, like Cabstract. Cabstract is really handy if you want to extract the contents of a cab file that you might find on a Windows 10 or 11 or any Windows image or CD. And then you got PowerShell, remote admin. So here you can use all types of VPN stuff, Ramina, remote desktop. And Ramina also is good for remote desktop SSH and all that. And then we got remote desktop client, remote viewer, and then some SSH utilities. And we also have virtual machine manager and virtual box. Wow. That's nice to have right at your fingertips too, especially if you're running it live on a USB stick. That's pretty impressive. And then all these utilities for SOP file systems. Wow. VM, you can even look at virtual disk images here under VMDK and VHDI. And you got XFS utilities, ZFS, Fuse. But this is cool. So you got VHD info and VMDK info, VMS, Fuse, just a ton. There really is anything you can think of you got to run into is here. You got maintenance tools. So here you got the cloning, Clonezilla, and these are really handy. I've had to clone images before and clone drives, and that's really a godsend, a lifesaver. Data protection, data recovery, and I've used some of these utilities too, especially Scalpel and Test Disk, and I've been able to salvage files that were, I thought, hopelessly lost. And I haven't even tried that GUI one, actually. And then here we got our disk analysis tools, hardware analysis, and like HW probe, and then we got malware scan using CLAM, antivirus, and so forth. And then we got even Outlook PST file tools here. This is really great. So you got PFF export and info, PST to DLI to DII, and so forth. And then we got our partitioning and erasing tools. Of course, the one I use the most is gparted. However, you got just tons of other options to choose from. Temperature analysis, tools for passwords. They even have a cracker in here for Windows to get an admin password for Windows. And of course, KeePassXC is an excellent password storage to store your own passwords in. Very secure. Something I would definitely recommend. Then we got Etcher and DCFDD, which is kind of a console version for creating USB images, bootable USB sticks. Then under miscellaneous tools here, we got Cups and Curl, TextEdit, HTOP, and then there's Midnight Commander. I like Midnight Commander. I'm going to open this up. This always kind of reminded me of DOS Shell. This is like a console type based file explorer, and it's really cool. You can just like arrow down, or you can use your mouse, and you just pop inside a folder, and then over here you got your split screen, and so you could copy and paste something into here. And then down here you got your menu, you got your help, menu items, view, and edit, and all this other stuff. And you can do a lot in here, even actually beyond just copy and paste. But that's probably a whole video all in itself. And then under services, we got all these different services that you can turn on and off right here. You can even disable and enable all services. How cool is that? And then you got ARP Alert and Avahi. So if you want to disable Avahi, you can do that right here. Cool and groovy. Then you got Bacula services for your backup. You need to turn that off. Bluetooth, CLAM antivirus. Everything right here at your disposal. If you need to disable a service, maybe you're troubleshooting something, this really makes it easy, because it really helps you to narrow down what's going on. And here you can enable and disable your libvirt if you're running Virt Manager for your virtualization, and then different spice agents here. Easy peasy, so you don't have to remember what the command line is. You can just click here and it'll take you right in the console and do it for you. Very nice. And then under settings, we got a Bluetooth manager, and then our light DM settings for the greeter, your login area, and then system settings. And then here's where all our user applications are. They're all categorized under this category. So you got your development and your graphics apps, which have a lot of your standards here, GIMP and so forth. And then under internet, we got our BitTorrent, and Thunderbird, Kmail, and Firefox, of course. And then we got Dragon Player, Juke, and VLC Media Player under Multimedia. So I'm assuming that the codecs are already installed here too, since we got VLC on there. And under System, we got our standard system items that we would find in most any KDE distro. And we got Dolphin for our file manager. And then under here we got Utilities. And under Utilities, your typical KDE utilities, including Arc, which is your archiver. And then over here, of course, like where I started, I'm going to click this because I want to check out our updates. And it looks like we're running Discover here for our package manager. That's cool. And I believe Synaptics is also installed on here as well. But the updates are linked through Discover. And it looks like we got a few updates here, so I'm going to hit that and let that update. And so here it gave me a little summary of the packages it's going to install and remove the old stuff. So we'll just put that in there and let that do its thing. Excellent. I think that'll probably take a while, so I'm just going to kind of push that off to the side here. And let's take a look at Firefox real quick. I'm assuming it's got to be a fairly recent version since it's this is Debian Testing. I'll just minimize that. And then this should open right up. There we go. So I'm kind of curious to see what oh, it looks like we got also default plugins here, extensions. So we got the uBlock origin there, and then HTTPS everywhere, and Privacy Badger installed by default. Pretty cool. And so if we go up here, it should be like 95-ish, 96 probably. So let's just get the version here under About. And it looks like it's 95. Got it. All right. So we're running Firefox version 95 here. There's our Privacy Badger confirmation. First time running. Cool. I really like the overall looks here too. They really theme this out super nice. That's something I find pretty impressive as well. Let's take a look at some wallpaper. I think if we right click here, we can go and configure our wallpaper and desktop. Get an idea how that looks. I'll just slide this over here, and these ought to be populating right about now. Oh yeah, lots of red in there. That seems to be the driving color here for the Kaisen theme. And so here we got a darker one. Let's take a look at that real quick. I'm gonna hit apply, and that I think looks even better. That works actually with the Conky, I think, even. Given that this, even though this is a dark theme, somehow that seems to work. Let's take a look at the moon. Wow, that's cool. I like that. That looks like something I would do. In fact, I did do something like this on an old product of mine like 10 or 12 years ago. Product called Shingla Pro. And I remember making a cover with some statues on the moon using the same technique. That's cool. So I like it just because of that. But I'm going to stick with this black one. This black one just seems to work for me. And then here we got our icon settings, and by default it's in columns, which I like. A lot of the newer KDE distros are now defaulting them into rows where they go across the top, which I think is also cool, but the columns is more traditional. And here you got the conky, just looks great with that black background. Red and black is such a great combination. And so I'm really liking that. And having every tool imaginable available at your disposal. And of course I'm exaggerating a little bit because there's not every tool imaginable, but probably every tool you would ever need is right here available. And I've run into so many different problems in the past where I've had to recover data, or I've had to sniff packets, scan, look at ARP tables. There's just so many things that you run into, and especially data recovery. I've run into problems where I've consulted with different organizations that were Windows-based that needed data recovered, and the only way that I could really recover it without spending a fortune is using Linux utilities like Test Disk and Scalpel and stuff like that. So yes, I mean, Linux has come to my rescue back in my Windows days so many times before it was my daily driver. Those were years ago, and they've always stood the test of time. And another thing about this conky, I just kind of noticed here, I didn't point it out before, but I like how they have the DNS IP up there and the Ethernet IP and so forth. Very cool. But getting back to IP stuff, this would be the ideal rescue disk too. So you can run this off of a thumb drive and use it. You can boot to it. You can rescue a system if it's having some kind of issues. You can get passwords. If you forgot the admin password on your Windows device, you can pop this in and crack it. Or again, data recovery. You need to recover data. You can also boot in and run off of RAM, if I remember right, for even faster stuff. However, this does have also a persistent mode, I believe, if I understood that correctly. So you can also run this on a USB stick just as a kind of a portable OS, and also write to it and save your documents right to your stick. So if you have a large capacity USB stick and you want to install this on a stick and just kind of run it as a portable OS that you can bring with you everywhere, that's doable. And that's another very cool thing about Kaisen Linux. This is something, even if I was not an IT guy, I think I would probably enjoy running this just as somebody that was a tinkerer. If you're a tinkerer but you're not an IT professional, this would be great, because somebody brings something over and it needs some kind of attention. You might be able to just hook it up to your computer here and make it work and fix the problem using one of these great utilities. Or you could have it on a laptop and take it somewhere and troubleshoot a network. And you'd be armed with all the utilities that you need to make this work. Kaisen Linux is something, I don't think I've ever seen this before. And again, Atef, thank you for pointing this out to me. I think this is really an interesting and fascinating distro, and I'm really glad that I've got the opportunity to review this, because now I got something new in my arsenal that I can play with, and I'm going to pop this on a laptop, and I know this is going to come in handy. Even though I don't go out there and troubleshoot networks and do all that stuff anymore, there's stuff on here that I would use here right at home just for everyday troubleshooting. And it's really nice having all the different console commands all consolidated in a menu system. So I can just have them all at my disposal, and they're all categorized so I can find them easily and then get to them. Now I have easy access to that through a menu system, instead of trying to remember, how do you do that? What's that command? And then you got to Google it, and then it might be the wrong command, and then you got to Google it again. You've probably been down that road before. So this has it all right here. Everything all in one spot. And so I think if you're an IT guy, and I remember about a month ago, Richard Haynes told me in a comment that he recently got a new position that required Linux experience. And I thought that was really cool. And I immediately thought of Richard when I saw this Kaisen Linux release, because he's probably just the kind of guy that would use something like this and really need it. And so, Rich, if you're watching, you ought to give it a try. Stick it on something. So yeah, all right. And with that, I hope this review was helpful. And if it was, don't forget to leave that thumbs up. And hit subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.